The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is The Chaser Report.
Hello, welcome to The Chaser Report with Charles and Dom, who aren't here, so it's me, producer Lachlan. Yesterday, Charles Firth celebrated his 48th birthday, and I'll let you do the math as to why he couldn't turn up in a podcast 4 a.m. this morning. Not that they're opposed to recording while tipsy, of course. Anyway, but that's not the only anniversary that we celebrated this week, is it? No, because those of you who pay attention to the news would know that this week was the 1-year anniversary of the Queen dying. Whoa, big, I can't believe it's been a year already. Wow, so many things have changed, like none of the currency and Australia's status as a republic. But a lot of things did happen in the week that we broke this news. So here's an episode to remember what happened when the Queen died, looking back 1 year on after this.
So joining us now is John Delmenico. Hello, welcome back to the show, John.
Hello.
How's everything going in Sydney?
Sydney is going like nothing's happening, so it's pretty much as per usual despite the Queen's passing.
Yeah, right. But my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I've been talking to my parents occasionally, you know, from over here, and apparently the only topic on the news ever is just the Queen. Like there's half an hour. How do you get rolling updates on the Queen being dead? Like nothing changes. Like surely it's like a 1 minute story.
Well, so here's the thing, Charles. You're really overestimating how much story they're putting into these stories.
Right.
There was the breakfast TV, ABC News Breakfast at one point had Mike Rowland standing outside of Buckingham Palace at night going, nothing's happened for the last 6 hours while the family's been asleep. But then not just going to a different story, just doing nothing for a few hours because the royal family was asleep.
Right.
It was gripping footage, I thought, of the sleeping royals. I mean, I think you're dissing it, John. I found I stayed up for that.
But what are the ratings like? Like, surely no one's watching it.
The only one who hasn't done rolling coverage was Media Watch, who has criticised the rolling coverage and pointed to the fact that from Saturday onwards, the ratings have been going down.
Oh.
Because everyone's sick of the rolling coverage.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, John, who's guilty of some of this, I saw on Twitter, Dommy. Now, he's not with us on the podcast today, but Dom Knight, who's been hosting the afternoons program on ABC Radio Sydney, he tweeted that he was devoting an entire show to pubs in New South Wales that are called The Royal. And
oh my God!
Let's investigate it. We're going to have to ask him about it when he comes back to the podcast. So what did you uncover, Donny, about the royal pubs?
Yeah. Oh, the angles are desperate now.
Well, I know. I'm getting people knocking on my bloody door here because I live in Kingsville in Melbourne.
Did you see the one about the person who loved corgis?
We're gonna do an episode next week of people who've once had a royal related crossword puzzle clue presented to them.
I think we should. Or yes, and I wouldn't stop there. I would also interview anybody who's eaten those biscuits that are called Royals.
Royals, yes.
They need to be grilled.
I think you guys are going the wrong angle with this because like ABC recently did one that was somebody who likes corgis.
No,
no connection to royals themselves. They just like corgis and therefore are similar to the Queen in one way and therefore should get an interview.
I wonder if anybody drinks gin.
So you can go that whole route as well.
In Australia,
oh yeah, that's right. Yes, because she used to drink gin for breakfast. Well, actually, it's funny because I have, in honour of the Queen, been drinking gin for breakfast as well.
Good for you.
Actually, well before she died.
That's very, very respectful of you, Charles, to prepare for her impending death in that way.
So a few days ago, somebody from ABC Radio in Melbourne contacted me saying they were trying to work out how to cover the Queen's death. And they asked me to come on and talk on the topic of what topic would you be able to talk on non-stop? So that's the most meta coverage I've heard. Sort of.
Well, Non-stop.
Well, it's not like there's anything else going on in the news, though, Charles.
Yeah.
They have to keep everything ongoing forever with the Queen.
They
So you
must
just
do.
gotta keep-
So you were on ABC Radio Melbourne, Charles, for how long? Like, how long did you talk non-stop in the end when you went on?
Oh, for about 5 minutes, and then I couldn't be bothered anymore.
Oh, so you
It's
hung
so-
up on
On the non-stop. Yeah.
Really?
No, it was just like, what are the things that you would... What would you be able to talk non-stop on? Like, my answer was cricket. I'd happily talk about cricket forever.
Yeah. Okay.
But do you have any passions, Andrew?
No, you know me. No passions. No passion. I mean, I could. I could talk non-stop about Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Ben and
I could
Jerry's
probably
ice
talk
cream,
non-stop about the flavours that I've experienced over the years and what I'm hoping for in the future.
Well, we'll cross live to you.
Oh yes!
and
Wow. I
for-
remember eating a pint of wavy gravy Ben and Jerry's back in 1999, and that was an experience. I could talk at great length about that, but I won't.
And
'cause we're with
John, what do you like talking non-stop about? This is a terrible topic. See, you can see why I hung up after 5 minutes. It's a terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so John, what we wanted you to talk about on this podcast today is the Chaser has been right in the thick of this coverage, and you, as the senior royal correspondent for the Chaser, have been up to your eyeballs in good angles. You came up with the best headline I think I've seen so far, which is because the Queen's death happened on Are You OK Day. What was your headline?
Well, it was while she was. It was like when they announced that she was resting and comfortable.
Right.
We put out a tweet that said, "Are you okay day? Not going well at the palace."
It's great.
That did cause a little bit of controversy,
Yeah.
though.
Yes.
I'm not sure how.
Well, it got the Daily Mail. It got the news.com.
You got Daily Mail, all the News Corp outlets. The Lad Bible
Yeah,
were
why was
furious.
Lad
Like they
Bible?
were uncharacteristically furious. They used the word seething.
Lad Bible were
Um,
really? Do they seethe
yeah.
about that? I didn't think Lad
It
Bible
was-
was the most sort of morally upstanding and woke account.
It was really bizarre because usually they love our stuff.
I think they're British, though, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean Lad Bible Australia got upset, which is weirdly the bigger brand internationally.
Is it really?
Well-
Lad Bible does well in Australia.
But Lad Bible Australia does well overseas. It's like one of the top Facebook pages overseas, but in Australia doesn't do very well.
Yeah, right.
Which might have been why they really played into it. But it also became the story that like News Corp just threw into articles to try to get people angry and staying on the
Yes,
websites.
that's good.
So we're on like crypto. There's like crypto articles that mention what the Chaser said and all this stuff. News Corp even did an article
I
trying to
think
figure out
actually one
who
of
at the Chaser wrote
one
that
of
headline.
The Chaser writers writes about crypto for Murdoch. So I suspect that actually it was probably one of our writers who was anonymously also attacking his own work.
That night was really weird because, it was the night of Gabby's last show of her debut run of her tour. So we were all out to go drink with Gabby about celebrating her successful
Yes.
tour.
Yes.
And
you
then
mean Gabby
we,
Bolt? Of course. I mean,
yeah,
for,
Gabby
for
Bolt.
people, if people don't know Gabby.
Yeah, if you've forgotten who she is, she used to host this show and then went off to do better things.
Yeah, she certainly did.
Internationally. This is a very international.
Yeah, we all decided we weren't going to work.
Sorry?
We all decided we weren't going
Yeah.
to work that night and we were just going to have fun. And then at like 10:30, we looked at our phones and saw the breaking news that they were flying the Royals out.
Fantastic.
And so instead, we all just immediately started coming up with as many jokes as we could and then picking
Did
a
the
few of them to put
responsible
online.
In the traditional Chaser response, which is, quick, someone's dying, let's make jokes about it.
Yeah, we also went through all of our old jokes to see which
Could be
ones
repurposed.
would not be too offensive if we repurposed them.
Nice.
Oh, how many did you have to discard for offensiveness, John? I mean, because I don't know. I mean, I'm not involved in this sort of online stuff. So, do you have a bank of really tasteless jokes that you can sift through? Do you? Ready to go?
The one that we were unsure about was an article that we ran last year that I wrote called "Charles Offers to Put the Queen Out of Her Misery."
Oh, and you thought
And it's got a
maybe-
photo of him holding up a pillow to her face. which we thought if we reran that might upset people if she's actually. So we decided not to, which goes against what the media was saying about us actively trying to offend people.
Yeah, no, we're just wanting
Because we could have gotten
wanting people
worse.
to laugh. That's what our only crime is comedy.
Yeah.
But there was a brilliant headline, and I don't know who came up with it. I don't know whether it was you or Cam, but the Prince Andrew one yesterday, which is because we were reporting on this podcast a few days ago that Prince Andrew has been given the responsibility of looking after all of the Queen's corgis, right? And so you ran with the headline. What was the headline?
Prince Andrew to take the Queen's corgis due to his vast experience with grooming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is a good gag. That is a solid gag.
Very solid. Very solid.
Thank you. I was hoping the Daily Mail would pick that one up, but they didn't.
Well, I mean, they're probably
I think
less
that
worried
they've
about
moved
you
on to
offending
Meghan now.
Prince Andrew, to be fair, as they would be about you offending the Queen.
You clearly haven't read the articles.
Oh.
Both Daily Mail and news.com.au said that took specific offence to Charles making a joke about Prince Andrew being a pedophile.
Oh, they didn't like that.
Yeah, they didn't like that, and didn't one of them say you can't publish those allegations or something? Like, there was some weird thing where they thought it was too offensive to publish the completely true allegations that there was.
Yahoo said it was too offensive to publish Charles's response to the questions about why he made a joke about Prince Andrew.
That's because I can actually read out my response to them, which was. Look, all I'll say is that we're devastated here at the Chaser to see a life cut short like this. Our thoughts and prayers with the family at this time, and in particular to all the 16-year-olds whose job it is to console Prince Andrew. And they didn't like that.
Well, that seems very harsh of them.
It feels like...
Mind you, the journalist then... He claimed it was unpublishable, but he did say, ha ha ha, I doff my proverbial hat, sir.
Oh. He was a British journalist then. He was a UK journalist.
Yes, he was a British journalist who also happened to be a 16-year-old boy pretending to be a gender. Sort of with the lilt of somebody pretending to be an adult.
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
My favourite coverage of it was in the Australians, media wrap up of the week, whatever. It was very strange because clearly some people on that team are fans of ours. And so they were there was a part where they referenced a joke that Gabby made months ago that the Chaser interns are all maybe living in Charles's basement and forced to stay there.
Really?
But they ran that as an actual allegation.
Oh, that's great. Huh? You know that can now be put on Wikipedia because now that allegation has now been appeared in the mainstream press.
Yes, it's a reference.
It's a reference. That can now be added to Wikipedia.
They also very methodically tried to come up with who their main suspects were for who came up with the jokes are you okay day?
Oh, really?
Did they?
Some of that. Where they were the Chaser interns exist, but then they didn't. They didn't actually come up with why it wasn't us. They just said it probably wasn't us.
What?
But then they were actually, if you had to guess which three people that they came down to and couldn't pick between, who would you guess?
Well, it'll be, who's got the reputation for being the bad boy of the Chaser?
Well, but it's also who wrote this. Do you know who wrote this article? Because some of them have beef.
Someone shared.
Yeah.
This guy very clearly has a beef with Chris.
Oh, he has
so
a
he
beef with
thought
Chris?
that it was Chris. Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense because Chris would write something offensive.
Well, yeah.
Well,
because he's very funny.
Quite possibly be Chris.
Because they also laid out their thinking for each of these.
So Chris...
It's very detailed, isn't it? Very
detailed. This is...
I mean, they obviously don't know that... None of us write. I mean, it's all written by the Chaser interns now, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think anyone from the TV series writes any of the material, so they don't know what they're on about.
Exactly.
It was written by Jared Henderson.
Oh, Jared,
no.
yes.
And
poor old Jared, he wouldn't know.
Well, he probably thought Julian wrote them.
Yes, he doesn't like Julian much, I don't think.
Yeah.
Weirdly, the thinking of who he doesn't like, who clearly he doesn't like, were the ones was part of how he was so it wasn't them.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
The three names that he finalized on was either You, Charles, you, Andrew, or Dom.
They're the three least likely people to have written any of this.
Yeah.
I wonder why he
That's
thought...
very odd.
Yeah, it was but the reason why I think he must have an actual problem with Chris is that his reasoning for why he thinks it wasn't Chris is that Chris is irrelevant. That was the only thing he said, is that Chris is irrelevant, therefore it wasn't him.
Poor old Jared, he doesn't realise that nearly all of the TV shows, like about 70% of the script, was written by Chris. But it just goes to show Jared has never known what he's on about.
But I like how he instead of, say, ringing us up and asking who wrote that gag.
I know, no, he's never done that. He's never done that.
Which you could totally do. Like you could
easily do that,
me
yes.
at
Poor
Twitter,
old Jared.
and I would say, John Delmenico came up with that excellent gag.
Yes, and he wouldn't have to theorise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, also weirdly, the fact that like one of the people he rules out is Cam Smith,
The editor.
digital editor and social media manager.
Who like, edits everything you do, John.
At least
To death.
Jared knows Cam
Yeah,
exists, though. At least he knows that much. I mean, Jared's...
Also,
I feel a
they
bit
did-
sorry for him because I think he has an unhealthy obsession with the Chaser. I mean, the amount that he's written about the Chaser brand over the years is an unhealthy amount for anybody to write.
He recently called, like a few months ago, he called Charles a middle-aged man who should stop with the childish stunts.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
As his headline.
Oh, right. Well, to be
where
fair,
does he
Jared
write?
was saying the same 12 years ago about all of us as well.
What? And he's probably quite accurate.
Yeah, I
tend to
know,
agree.
quite fair. I mean, I agree with
Yeah.
pretty much everything Jared writes, except for the factually untrue stuff.
Where does he write this stuff? What publication?
It's at the Australian. There's this like weekly media wrap
right.
that's like their answer to Media Watch. And it's really long.
Yes,
Right.
it's so long.
Like it's
and
like
dull.
15 pages of just someone rambling about
Gerard
almost
has
exclusively the
achieved
ABC and the Chaser.
Has achieved the impossible and made a gossip column boring.
Yeah, he's the most boring gossip in the world. Yes, it's so long-winded. It's extraordinary. I remember poor old Julian once was stuck in an email conversation back and forth with Jared. It was one of the only time, perhaps the only time, that Jared actually contacted one of us. And we were weeping with boredom, I remember, in the office at some of these lengthy emails that Jared was sending to Julian. They went for pages and pages and pages. And eventually Julian just sent back a one-word reply that said unsubscribe.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. Well, John, so are you going to be live tweeting the royal funeral or whatever it's called on the 22nd? Or are you going to take the day off because it's a public holiday? Like, what's the employment situation there?
See, I kind of want to say I'm going to live tweet it, but then I'm also realizing nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like in my head, Ben Robert Smith being there means he might kick over a coffin and push it off a cliff. But like that's not going to happen. They're all just going to stand there and be boring. Like I think the only interesting thing could be if the FBI shows up because that's somewhere they know Andrew will be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Surely
And they can finally
they'll
get their
arrest a
questions.
few people who say accurate things at them. Like, there'll be a few.
They won't
arrests.
like that.
Yeah.
They definitely
Yes.
won't like that. Like, if there's especially if there's any non-white people who are, using this
Yes.
time to inappropriately talk about the monarchy, which
Yes.
shouldn't be talked about at a time when the monarchy is front of mind in everybody
Yes.
in the entire world's brain.
And
Very
I love
inappropriate.
the people who are saying we shouldn't politicise the Queen.
No,
Even though she's
keep
the head
politics
of our
out of it.
political
Yeah,
system.
keep-
Like,
keep
she's
ugly
literally
politics
the
out of this.
the actual head of our political system. Like, she embodies politics.
She's above politics because she's literally on top of all the politics.
yeah.
Ooh. I think it's not too late, though, for the Queen to make a sort of James Bond, you only live twice style escape from the coffin.
Yes.
I'm kind of
Yes.
hoping that, without nobody noticing, while people are distracted, she's going to leap out of the coffin, hopefully wearing scuba gear, and, dart off across the English Channel to further adventures.
I will watch the funeral just in case that happens.
We can always hope.
I'll be disappointed if it doesn't.
Keep up the good work, John, and have a good weekend.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm sure Because my best part is I always also get to read all the news because of my job. So I'll get the exciting thing of what we've done wrong or what Megan has done.
Yes.
That is bizarre.
We should get Megan on the podcast.
Invite her on.
To critics. Yeah, we will. Can
Invite
you
her
do
on.
that, John? Yeah.
I'll try, but a recent hit piece I literally just read is that she horrifically and disrespectfully paused her podcast until after all the funeral stuff's done.
Yeah. See,
And like News Corp is very mad that she's
yes.
done that.
That's disrespectful.
well, that's right. That's the only reason we've kept this podcast going is out of respect for the Queen.
It's so respectful to be doing this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we should probably make some extra episodes out of respect, shouldn't we? I mean, if just to show
Yes.
true contrition and respect
Yes.
and grief, we should be podcasting more frequently.
It's what she would have wanted.
She would have wanted it.
Our gear is from Road. We're part of the Acast Creator Network. We'll catch you next week.